Now, a very common question that I've been getting rather recently have come from friends asking about the differences between a Disney cruise and Walt Disney World. So I wanted to go over it just a little bit more and tell you why I would choose one over the other. I really do appreciate the questions, and I've noticed a lot of them have a very similar theme. If I could choose between, let's just say, a 7-night Disney cruise, which I have coming up, or a 7-night Disney World trip, which would I choose? It is a very good question, and now that I've had more time to process more of the Disney cruise and think about Disney World in the future, and another Disney cruise coming up super soon, I think I have a better answer for you. Now keep in mind, what I'm going to tell you in this video is totally my opinion. There are other folks who have totally different opinions than I do, but I want to give you as much information as possible so you can make the best decision for yourself or your family. The first thing to talk about, the first thing that I think about when it comes to trips, cost. A Disney cruise costs more than going to Walt Disney World. Hands down, no one's arguing that, everyone knows that. But for those of us who have been on Disney cruises, I think many of us would agree it is 100% worth that cost. Now, I'm not saying that Disney World is not worth 100% of the cost. I'm just saying that even though it is more expensive if you've never been before, I feel like it is worth the cost. Now, let's just say, as an example, I can go to Walt Disney World for 7 nights, and I'm not including the airfare or the ticket or even the food, just at the hotel for $1,000. Again, that's a totally rough number, just kind of getting some concepts down. And let's say I could go on a 7-night Disney cruise for $3,000, just a rough number as an example. The reason why I bring up these numbers is because I want to ask a very basic question. Is a Disney cruise worth 3 Disney World trips? Again, averages, it's not exact, but it's the idea that I want you to think about. Answering this question is difficult, but for me, with the single cruise experience that I've had, I've only had one, I would say yes, it's worth it. But there are certain things to consider. So what does that mean for me? Well, for me, Disney World basically calls me home. That is my home. That's where I want to be. It calls me back, and I feel almost uncomfortable if I don't get back to Disney every so often. For me, it's about once a year. That's as long as I can go without being at Walt Disney World, or at least not feeling comfortable. Of course, if money was so tight I couldn't go, I'd have to deal with it, but I'd be very uncomfortable if I wasn't at Walt Disney World at least once a year. So yes, a Disney cruise is absolutely worth the cost, but even at the time of making this video, even with another double countdown, I still feel this funny feeling inside, like, I'm missing the Flower and Garden Festival. Oh, I sure wish I could go. I kind of had that inside debate. It's not a problem. I get to go to Disney World all the time, but I still feel like I miss out a little bit on that Flower and Garden Festival. So it's a very personal decision. Now, for me, it's a bit of a unique situation. Let's say that $3,000 expense for a Disney cruise is basically cut in half because my brother and I are sharing some of those costs. So it's much, much easier for me to go on this cruise and then go right back to Disney World. But if I didn't have my brother with me, we weren't sharing those costs, it'd be much more difficult. So there are a lot of different factors that I weighed in, and everyone's situation is unique, so you have to figure out how you can manage some of those costs and make it worth it for you. Now, I love going on our trips together and bringing you with me virtually, but I only have to pay for one when I'm there. If you have a family and maybe 2 or 3 kids with you, and you're all together, it might mean not going back to Walt Disney World for several years, and that's where I feel like it comes down to the personal decision. Now, if I put myself in the shoes of someone who might have small kids, maybe 2 or 3 kids, and we're all going together, and if we went on a Disney cruise, it would mean not going back to Disney World for 2 or 3 years. I might say right there, you know what? It's not worth it for a Disney cruise because that pressure of wanting to go back to Disney World would be far too great for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't love the cruise. I just would pick Disney World if I'm deciding between that pressure and going on a Disney cruise. That's me. You could be totally different, or maybe you grew up with the cruise and that's your home and the cruise is what you call home, and that would be the opposite situation where you're thinking about Disney World. So it happens for all of us. There's different situations. You got to think about what is best for you. That's the moral of the story. Figure out how you want to experience the magic. Now, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you. You know that I call Disney World home, but maybe you've been on a cruise so many years and you've loved it all this time, so you call the Disney cruise home. Let me know in the comments below which one you would pick and how you kind of debate between the two, and if you know that feeling of the pressure of not being back home. Let me know. Looking forward to reading your comments. Thank you so much for being a part of the magic with me. Until next time, have a magical day.